Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh, fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and we got something to talk about today. Really an ongoing issue since week one, since the Chiefs season started, and that is the amount of snaps that safety Dan Sorenson is getting this year, and just the continued trust in him. We're going to talk about it. Why it's an issue. A lot of you guys already know why it's an issue. We're just going to go in depth on it and analyze his performance thus far, and then we're going to come up with some possible solutions to this. And there's a lot to say, but let's just start with this. Dan Sorenson needs to be taken off the field completely. Like, he needs to be benched. And a lot of people have said they want to see Juan Thornhill over Dan Sorenson. I agree with that. But heck, even Armani Watts should be getting an opportunity over Dan Sorenson at this point with how bad he's been. So far this year, Dan Sorenson has a PFF grade of 35. 35. He is the worst starting safety in the entire league as of right now. So far this year, he is allowing a 78.9% completion rate when targeted. And according to Pro Football Reference, he has given up 246 yards receiving this year, which is already half of what he gave up all of last year. He's also allowing a 153.8 passer rating when targeted. He is having quite possibly the worst season of any NFL defender this year, and maybe any NFL defender in a very long time. On top of all that, his tackling seems to have taken a huge nosedive as he leads the entire league in missed tackles. So far this year, he does not do a single thing well. Maybe blitz. Blitzing is probably about the only thing he does well. So why does he get so many snaps? Why does he get so many opportunities? And this is where I like to question Steve Spagnuolo and the coaching staff. This is where I have some serious questions. Someone has to start taking accountability, because I truly think that Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid, they have this, there's politics in the locker room where Dan Sorenson, he just warrants favoritism from the coaching staff. And it's always been that way. You know, ever since Andy Reid has been here, he's had a soft spot for Dan Sorenson. And I think that this coaching staff, and they're wrong, but they actually think Dan Sorenson is their best option. I've seen a lot of people say that if Juan Thornhill was good enough, he'd be taking Dan Sorenson snaps, or heck, even Armani Watts, like I mentioned a minute ago. Like Kent Swanson from KC Sports Network said that it's telling that Juan Thornhill can't get on the field, basically saying that, he's just not good enough to get snaps over Dan Sorenson. I wholeheartedly disagree. I think they actually genuinely think Dan Sorenson is the better player. I mean, even Andy Reid said it. They said that Dan Sorenson had the better camp. And I don't even believe that for a second. This is pure favoritism. That's exactly what it is. It's favoritism. And honestly, Juan Thornhill, I'm surprised the dude has not requested a trade by now, because they're ruining this kid's career. So far this year, Dan Sorenson has played 98% of the defensive snaps, which isn't a surprise if you've been following. They just refuse to take him off the field. But the worst part about it is he may have had his worst game as a Chief against the Buffalo Bills this past Sunday night, and he was getting absolutely torched in the first half. I mean, it was really bad. You've seen it. You saw Tyrann Mathieu throw up his hands. He was pissed at Dan Sorenson for playing bad. I mean, it was one of the worst stints by a defensive player this year. Then they went into halftime, and then there was the lightning delay. And the lightning delay lasted about an hour and 15 minutes. They had an entire hour and 15 minutes to come to the conclusion that Dan Sorenson wasn't the answer. And after they rolled out in the second half, guess who was back on the field? Dan freaking Sorenson. And when the snap counts came out on Monday, he ended up playing 100% of the defensive snaps. That is inexcusable. And honestly, that alone is a fireable offense. Steve Spagnuolo should be fired just for that. Dan Sorenson played 100% of the defensive snaps for this football team after that first half. He played 100% of the snaps on defense for this football team after the last 4 games, too, leading up to that game. Absolutely ridiculous. Someone's got to be in trouble over that. At some point, you just got to let the young guys play. You got to put your athletes on the field. You put your athletes on the field, and if they lose, they lose. But at least you're losing with your best option, your best athletes. Like Armani Watts and Juan Thornhill need to be on the field over Dan Sorensen. Like Dan Sorensen is beyond done. He's cooked. He shouldn't even be on an NFL roster. If the Chiefs cut Dan Sorensen today, not a single team would pick him up. But for some reason, he starts for the Kansas City Chiefs, who a lot of you guys consider a Super Bowl contender. And he's one of the biggest problems on this defense. You cannot tell me there is not a better option on this roster over Dan Sorensen. Heck, Zane Anderson and Devin Key, who are on the practice squad right now, I guarantee either of them would be a better option. And that's saying a lot, considering how bad Devin Key was in preseason. But like Zane Anderson, like that guy, he's young, he's an athlete. He's like a more juiced up version of Dan Sorensen. Bring him up, see what he can do, because Dan Sorensen's not it. And look, Dan Sorensen's had a nice career in Kansas City, and what he did during the 2019 Super Bowl run is unforgettable, but that's in the past, and he's horrible. He's a detriment to this football team. I mean, he cannot run with guys in coverage, and despite people's defending of him saying that he knows where to be, well, he doesn't know where to be. Like, he's consistently lost on defense. Like, it doesn't even look like he knows where to be anymore. So it's not like he has that edge over like a younger player with more potential like Juan Thornhill, because people will say Juan Thornhill doesn't know where to be. He doesn't know the defense. Well, it doesn't look like Dan Sorensen knows the defense either. I just don't understand why we had all offseason. You know, if Brett Veach knew and this coaching staff knew that Juan Thornhill wasn't going to be ready to contribute more heavily, and if they knew that the safety room was going to be Dan Sorensen starting, why didn't they try harder to upgrade the safety spot? Or why didn't they get in on the free agent safety market that included Anthony Harris, Keanu Neal, Malik Hooker, all guys that would be an instant upgrade over Dan Sorensen? And I brought up this next point on the Kingdom Crew podcast that I do with Michael Darcy and Lucas Murphy. And even though I am one of the biggest skeptics of general manager Brett Veach and his talent evaluation, there's a part of me that feels like Brett Veach, you can't even put the lack of talent over Dan Sorensen on the roster on him, because, you know, Brett Veach is watching these same games as us, and he's in the front office for a reason. He's the general manager for a reason, even though I'm a skeptic and critic of a lot of his moves. There's no way Brett Veach is watching these same games we are and going, you know what, Dan Sorensen deserves another contract, and then he re-signs Daniel Sorensen. And one of my commenters brought this up on that past video too. And I forget his name, but if it's you and you remember and you're watching, please let me know down in the comments. I will credit you in my next video. But he mentioned that Brett Veach is just the shopper for Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid, they make the shopping list, and Brett Veach goes shopping. And that's, I can believe that. Like, let's remember, Dan Sorensen was always one of Andy Reid's guys, even before Brett Veach became general manager. And I think when Dan Sorensen keeps getting brought back, that's Andy Reid going, you know what, Dan Sorensen's my guy. Brett Veach, make sure you bring back Dan Sorensen, because we want him back, we love him, that's who we're comfortable with. And Brett Veach says, okay, because Andy Reid has that kind of power within the organization. You guys know that every single move this team makes is signed off by Andy Reid. And if you don't give Andy Reid what he wants, then you could be on the hot seat. And I think the balance of power in this organization leans far too heavily in Andy Reid's favor when it comes to personnel decisions. And it's a problem for this team. But at some point, something's got to give, because Dan Sorensen is one of the biggest reasons this team is 2-3 right now. So what are some possible fixes? Well, obviously, step one would be taking him off the field and giving the younger guys like Armani Watts and Juan Thornhill a shot, which I already have mentioned. You know, those are the obvious fixes. Those are the obvious answers. But, heck, there's even options outside of the organization. For example, Kenny Vaccaro, the former Titans safety, is a free agent right now. How is he not on an NFL roster and Dan Sorensen is? I mean, that's a name I would look into. There's been rumors that Justin Reed of the Houston Texans could be on the chopping block, since the Texans are probably going into a rebuild. There's not a whole a lot of reason for them to keep Justin Reed around. Maybe Justin Reed doesn't want to be there anymore. I mean, the Texans, they're having a fire sale. Most veterans on their team are up for grabs for the right price. We've heard that for a while now. So Justin Reed from the Texans, maybe you go out and you get him to upgrade from Dan Sorensen and make your secondary a little bit stronger, since they've been killed so far this year. And again, Dan Sorensen's one of the biggest reasons why. Another name that I've heard a little bit now is Marcus May, the Jets safety. He apparently requested a trade earlier today, according to reports. That would definitely be one that I look into as well. He's a very good safety, and again, an upgrade from Dan Sorensen. So those are some potential solutions, but, you know, we know that the Chiefs, they like to look for internal solutions a lot of the time, and they don't go outside of the organization a lot unless it's like a panic, desperation type of thing, like the Josh Gordon signing. Like, we all knew wide receiver 2 was an issue, and it took them 4 weeks into the season to realize the guys they had weren't it, and they signed Josh Gordon, which may or may not work out. But it's kind of the same here, I feel like, with safeties. You know, if this defense continues to give up 30 points per game or more week after week for the next few weeks, I think eventually Brett Veach has got to step in, go in Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo's office and say, guys, what do I got to do? Because I've given you pieces, you're not using them, so who do I got to bring in? Because this defense is terrible. We've got to make a move. We're wasting a prime year of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl window. Like, if it continues the way it's looking like, Brett Veach is going to have to make a move. Like, he has to make a move at the deadline to improve this defense. Somebody, because this defense, it's not winning a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes can no longer mask this defense and how bad it is. Because so far, they're worse than the 2018 defense. I mean, they're historically one of the worst defenses of all time. And I feel like we say that every single year. It seems like every single year the Chiefs defense in some category ranks worst of all time. And that goes on this team and its front office too. Brett Veach has had 4 years, okay? He's had 4 years here. He just rebuilt this defense 2 years ago, and now it's already needing to be overhauled again. That just tells me that he didn't do the job right the first time. If 2 years later now the defense is an absolute disaster. But that could be a whole nother video. This is about the safeties and Dan Sorensen right now. I'm kind of going off on a different tangent, but Dan Sorensen needs to go. And this comment section, this is your place to vent about Dan Sorensen. So go ahead. I want to hear what you guys have to say, and what do you think of my potential ideas and solutions, or let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I said. We'll get some debate going. But all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this, and make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com as well as arrowheadaddict.com. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.